Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. And I want to thank Senator Sinema and Schmidt for holding this subcommittee hearing and all of you for participating today. Thank you so much. I appreciate all my colleagues, obviously, being here and asking important questions. We have reached new heights, including the striking images of new galaxies from the James Webb Telescope. The U.S. space program continues to evolve and forge ahead with partnerships between the public and the private sector. SpaceX Falcon 9 was the first to take the NASA astronauts to the International Space Station, and now civilians are riding on the edge of space in commercial aircraft. So we're very excited about all of this in the state of Washington. We like to say that Seattle is the Silicon Valley of space. That is the intersection of software and hardware and probably Boeing engines and other things all coming together. And I think we have something like $4.6 billion in economic activity and 13,000 jobs. So we had the NASA administrator out this past summer to talk about some of that innovation and a little sharper focus on workforce issues. Very concerned about workforce needs at FAA, at NASA, in the space sector in general, and what we need to do to further incent or encourage young people and people of diversity, particularly women, to go into that field. And certainly wanted to continue the R&D innovation and collaboration, but really start thinking about what one might consider high-rate piece part manufacturing juxtaposed to where we've been thus far. So how do you speed up the next level of aviation, aerospace construction, and what do we need to do to be really good at that? So those were some of the conversations we had in Seattle with the administrator and a great group of participants from a variety of segments. And I wanted to follow up today first with that question about STEM and workforce. Very excited that NASA continues to play a very big role for the FAA, and we're really, with the FAA safety bill that we passed a couple of years ago, trying to increase the technical expertise at the FAA in next generation technology issues. What do we need to do to get this right at NASA and in the private sector in encouraging a very, very robust space workforce? And just go right down the panel.
So I think you're right to focus that there is a need within the FAA to make sure that we're able to attract and retain excellent talent there. So, some ideas have been put forward about the idea of expediting hiring opportunities. I also think collaboration between industry and government with regard to employees. So we have employees that go from one agency to another agency, but in some instances there are opportunities, for example, with this former Air Force, Space Force, where there were embeds from government with industry, and that really does foster a technical interchange and an understanding, and that also can help understand that the opportunities that are in government to stay in government. So, for example, I'll commend my colleague here, Mr. Monteith, who left the Air Force then and then went into government service again to work with the space industry at AST. And those kinds of exchange of information, even from government agency to government agency, but particularly where we can foster from industry movement and exchange there.
Okay, we'll have to go more quickly on our answers down the panel.
Thank you, Chair Cantwell. I would simply put it in two buckets. Number one, I think we need to have a much more robust intern program to get them, the college grads or future college grads, interested early into government service in those technical fields. And number two, tagging on to Ms. Shennewerk's comments, when I was in FAA, we had started looking at how do we move back and forth, not from government agency to government agency, but from government agency to industry and back, because I think the entire system would be better served from having more technically knowledgeable and advanced employees on both sides.
Okay.
Thank you.
I completely agree with both my colleagues. I just talk about the underrepresented group. Look at programs that invest in demographics that you don't typically see in industry. Women, people of color, they don't have the same opportunities as others. So programs that do reach that group. And it's interesting because I am a woman, person of color. I joined this industry and believed I could succeed in this industry because I met people from this industry doing incredible things, and that made it real and made it possibility. So let's look at programs that reach out to those communities that don't have those opportunities.
You know, I would add that if there's an exciting mission that people can get really excited about and they can see a sense of the future that's brighter and a chance to really open the horizon, space gives you that opportunity to think about a better future. And I think we can entice the young people to get excited about that. And then if we can also be open to new technology, if we can take what they've learned in gaming, what they've learned in computer worlds and bring that into our world, we can expedite manufacturing. And I think we also need to be extremely open into diverse areas. We need to be open to all ideas and not assume that anyone doesn't have an idea that has value and cannot be used. We need to be open to every idea, look for innovation. And the same thing, even with the regulatory environment, we can no longer continue the same process. We need to look for ways to be innovative and creative and open the aperture so we can accept diverse opinions and different ways of doing business. If we keep doing things the same way, we won't get the results we want. But I think that excites the young generation.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add, and my colleagues have made some of these points, is play the long game. Expand the workforce, right? How do you do that? You get more women, more people of color engaged, and you start that at an incredibly early age to make it more attractive, more appealing to those groups to join the type of workforce that we need in this industry and the FAA needs to regulate. Make the pool bigger, start early. Blue is sponsoring a Club for the Future, which is a STEM program that starts in preschool, starts in elementary school. I think we need more of that.
Starts in preschool?
It starts in kindergarten, actually.
Okay.
We have number close enough. Yeah. So, but why not, right? It's one of those things where you want that culture, you want these people to grow with that opportunity to see people like my colleague, Ms. Bondlayer, doing what she's doing and be able to do that themselves. So I think that's how we do it.
Yeah, definitely as an application of a STEM occupation, I don't think you could get something more exciting or more interesting. So we would hope. But I do think as I've traveled to various facilities around the country, it's clear to me that there are a lot of technical people at our space facilities. They don't have four-year degrees. And we need to send out a big, loud message everywhere that these are technical jobs that are well-paying jobs, but that we need to, I don't know if there's this, if we're missing a space at the community college where we're saying this is your space technician program or something like that, but I feel like we should be doing more in this particular area. As I said, my region, very interested in this as we transfer more to large-scale, more rapid pace manufacturing and production. And then I'm going to sit for the record, Madam Chair, this question, which today's hearing isn't squarely on, but, well, I just want to make one more point about this. I literally believe that we have to start thinking about CTOs and maybe even CTOs by sector. By that I mean, if you think about it, within the FAA, there may be a CTO specific to certification and there may be a CTO specific to commercial space. I just think that changes in technology are so rapid that you need somebody who is the overall guidance when it comes to the types of innovations we're seeing. How else do we keep a whole workforce at the FAA up to speed on that? I ran into a gentleman in my community, Edmonds, Washington, but that's where you will run into a lot of Boeing engineers just walking around on a Saturday afternoon. But he said, we used to have chief engineers. And he said there's never a way to fool the chief engineer. You always were afraid to go in front of them because you knew you were never going to fool them. And so the point is that now we have all this technological change and it's so big. And as the FAA grapples with still certifying commercial airplanes, but then trying to figure out how to certify space travel, how are we going to do that without some key technology leaders at key posts within the FAA? Okay, so I'll submit some questions for the record on that, but I thank the witnesses for this hearing and appreciate the input, particularly on the safety side, but also on how we come back to this issue of the certification that is learning period that's expiring and what we need to do for the future.